Okay.
Hi.
Hey, good afternoon.
This is so exciting. Hi, everyone's getting in. This will take a couple minutes, so get yourself comfortable and settled in.
Should I put my face in it? My face?
Yeah.
Hi, folks. We still have many people still arriving, so we'll take a couple minutes to let all of our new Argonauts arrive. So get cozy and grab a beverage and maybe a snack. We have a lot of information coming your way in a few minutes, and we won't mind if you do what you need to do to stay on top of it. So we'll start in just a few minutes as the rest of our folks get signed in. Who's already been on one Zoom call today? Can we get a thumbs up or a hand wave if you've already been on at least one Zoom today? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot, yes.
I haven't been on.
You can see Mr. Harper shared his screen. That's what we'll be using as our presentation tonight. Feel free to adjust the settings if you want. If you want to still be able to see faces, you should be able to adjust that up at the top where it says view options. Or you can change the speaker view however you want it to be, but feel free to mess with your settings a little bit if you still want to be able to see faces, or if you just want to see the presentation, that's fine too. That will mostly be what we are referencing tonight. Love it. We have more folks adding by the second, so we'll let everyone get settled in. I think I'll take 2 more minutes and we'll start officially at 6:05.
Do we need to make notes of anything?
You certainly can if you want to. We are going to record the whole presentation, and I'll go over that in a moment. We're going to record the whole presentation and also email out just the slide deck and make it available on our website too. So any notes you want to take, go for it, but all of these resources will be available to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
And for those just joining, we're going to start at 6:05. So we'll take 1 more minute to let everyone find their Zoom home, and then we'll get started.
Te voy a hacer que te cague de la risa.
All right, so by my clock, it is officially 6:05, and we are going to get started for the evening. I so wish we could be doing this in person here at the Armory. Actually, I know I and several of the staff members are here in the building right now, and we just wish you were all here with us desperately. But alas, we're going to make do, and I just want to welcome you heartily and with so much excitement to the Argonaut family. Thanks for coming tonight, especially. We have a lot of information for you. Mr. Harper, would you go to the next slide? Before we start, just a couple quick notes on the logistics. If you could keep your microphone on mute in the background to limit background noise. You are welcome to keep your video feature on or off, or switch back and forth. We love to see you, but understand there's probably various things going on at our houses and wherever you are from, so feel free to switch it on and off. We are recording this session so that we can make it available for those who are not able to attend, and we will email out both the presentation and just the slides too, so you can reference them in the future. Parents and guardians, if you're on and your student is within reach, we would love for your student to be present too. A lot of this information will play out in their daily life, so would love for them to hear it if they are nearby. You're welcome to use the chat feature for questions, and we will try our best to address them as we go, but we know that there might be questions we either don't know the answer to yet or we just don't get to tonight. And so we'll take note before we close out. We'll review the questions that are still in the chat and then answer those in a follow-up format. And then just know that tonight we are really trying to focus our orientation on the things that are most relevant to virtual learning. If and when we transition to a hybrid model, we will do another orientation that focuses on what you need to know to be successful in in-person learning. Does that sound okay? That way we don't give you a whole bunch of info tonight that's not relevant quite yet. Okay, so those are our notes. Here's what we're up to tonight. Here's our agenda. Some introductions first off, so you know who the team is. A little bit of an introduction to Riverside, just to make sure you know what you can expect from us. Information about student orientation and what your student needs to take care of in the next week. Virtual Learning 101 to talk about how the semester will start with virtual learning. We need to talk about lunch status application, key upcoming dates, and then a Q&A. So we have a packed now 80 minutes left, but do want to make sure are done for sure by 7:30 and also leave some time for Q&A at the end. So we'll try to pace ourselves to make sure that that's the case. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. I actually am going to take the opportunity, typically if we were in person throughout the spring, I would have gotten to meet your families as you came for final walkthroughs or to do enrollment stuff with Miss Young, or at our celebrations or our kickoff night like this. To meet you in person, I want to tell you just a little bit about how I have arrived at this position as we get to know each other a little bit. So this first photo you'll see here is actually the view from my parents' front window on the family farm. I'm from Northwest Indiana, and what I love about this photo is actually there's a basketball hoop you can't even see, but it's on the barn down there in the corner. And I grew up an Indiana basketball player from a small town, and to me, moving to Indianapolis was for Butler University. I went to undergrad at Butler and have stayed here in the city and haven't left since my undergrad. I mean, I know you can go ahead, even again. And so when I was at Butler, I studied English and secondary education, and my first job out of college was as an English teacher, and I quickly transitioned to teaching at Heron High School English. This was my favorite text to teach. I loved teaching Their Eyes Were Watching God, and still I think is one of the best texts to teach high school students. I went back to Butler for their school counseling program and actually spent 5 years at Heron working as a school counselor. And it was around that time that Heron High School, which is the first campus in Indianapolis Classical Schools, began the process of considering replication and opening a second campus. So I was very honored to be asked to be part of that team and to launch and open Riverside High School. So have done that here the last 4 years as the latest step in my career. In the same year that Riverside launched, my daughter was born. This is my 4.5-year-old Rosie. There's my husband, who also works at Butler now. He's the campus farmer there. And then our dog, Prudence, who always looks that sad, but she's really happy. So that's a little bit about my background. I just wanted to, you're going to be hearing a lot from me tonight. I want to make sure you have a little bit of frame of reference from where I come from to do this work. I'm so honored and pleased to be the head of school at Riverside. I love my job and I'm so fortunate to be able to do it for you all. So I have some other team members who will introduce themselves as well. Mr. Harper, if you want to head to the next slide, and then I think you're up next.
I sure am. Hi, my name is Emmanuel Harper. I'm the assistant head of school at Riverside High School. Just to give you a little background about myself, I really love pizza. So this is a photo of me after I've hiked 74 miles on the Colorado Trail, and it's my first real meal in a while, and I ordered 3 pizzas. I did not eat all of them, unfortunately. So I'm also a big Star Trek fan, so if you love Star Trek, me and you and your student can have a lot of fun chats about Star Trek. But a little more seriously, I graduated from Wabash College. I too am a Indy native. I got a BA in French. I was at Heron High School, our sister campus, teaching French for a few years before I became our curriculum specialist, and then our testing coordinator, then our dean of students, and was asked by Katie to join the team at Riverside High School to be the assistant head of school. And I'm just so honored and privileged to be a part of this really special school and really special space, because our job is to make sure that your child has an amazing experience, particularly in these uncertain times. And I'm really excited that we're able to do that. But this isn't possible without the team that I surround myself with. So I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves too.
My name is Bryson Davis Johnson. I am not an Indiana native. I'm originally from Champaign, Illinois. I've been in Indy a little over 5 years. I moved here to get my master's degree and to coach men's basketball at the University of Indianapolis. So I did get my master's from there. I got my undergrad from Eastern Illinois University, started off teaching physical education. And then after I left UIndy, I was a teacher and a basketball coach at Perry Meridian High School. And halfway through last school year, I had the opportunity to join the team at Riverside in an administration role. It was something that I couldn't pass up, just everything they have in place to set students up for success, whether it's post-secondary education, and then the work that we're doing to kind of help guide students toward careers after Riverside. I'm just thankful to be here, and I look forward to supporting you in whatever your goals and dreams are, and your academic success, specifically right now with this virtual learning.
Hello, everyone. My name is Asia Bowen. I'm Miss Bowen, and I'm just a part of the team that is led by the amazing Mr. Harper. I've been at Riverside for 3 years now. Wow, this is gonna be my 3rd year. I'm also not an Indy native. I'm from a little town called Richmond, Indiana. It's about an hour away from Indy. Lived there, then I had to go to big city life. I went and got my undergrad degree at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Like Katie, I studied English and secondary education. Then moved to Philly, got a master's at the University. And job that I had in Indianapolis was at Riverside, and I have been here ever since. I started off as a 9th grade English teacher, then shifted into a space where I did more classes focusing on supporting kids with reading and writing, and of course we call reading and composition. And then since then have shifted into this role as Dean of Students. And I am really excited. I think one of the things I love most about being an educator is the relationships that I get to build with students, helping them actualize who they are, empowering them to be their best selves. And I'm excited to do that with all of you guys this year and your families. So thanks for having us.
All right. I am Michelle Butler. I'm one of the school counselors here at Riverside, specifically for 9th and 10th graders. I am an Indy native. I grew up on the west side, went to Ben Davis High School, received my undergrad at Anderson University, got my bachelor's in social work, worked in the nonprofit sector for a while, a lot of community development. And then moved to Ohio and got my master's in social work at Ohio State. So I'm a big Ohio State fan. moved back to Indiana, worked in behavioral health for a while as a therapist. I am a therapist as well. I am a licensed clinical social worker, so I do private practice part-time as well. And yeah, I have been at Riverside I'm going on my second year, so I've only been here 1 full year, and absolutely love it. Love the community, love leadership, the people I work with. And yeah, I live in Robertville with my husband and my dog, and yeah, love teaching yoga as well. So that's a little bit about me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cliff Koshin, and I serve now as the 11th, 12th grade school counselor at Riverside, as well as our director of college and career advising. I am originally from Cleveland and worked at Heron for a couple of years. I taught English, mostly 9th and 10th grade. Was really proud to be one of the founding teachers at Riverside. And have served in many capacities since then. I was our first athletic director. I served as our high ability coordinator, and I'm really thrilled to now be a counselor for a second year and for our first seniors and graduating class. Just to give you all an idea about what our office, Ms. Butler and I cover. So we take care of all academic scheduling and counseling. It's our job to track credits, make sure everyone's on track for graduation. We do college and career advising, so helping students to reach their goals in both of those realms and to have a plan for when they graduate. That includes internships. We do wellness, socio-emotional learning, 504 plans, and then just a quick plug, if you have not done so already, enrollment at Riverside High School needs everyone's 8th grade final grades if you haven't sent them to them already.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rusty Hughes. I'm the athletic director here at Riverside High School. I have the privilege of setting up all the schedules for all the teams that we have. And in this particular day and age, it's a little scary. Everything's changing so quickly. If you paid attention to the news last week, you may have seen something about all sports have been canceled in Marion County, and then it came right back and said, no, it's still on. And so right now we are, today was the first day of practices for volleyball and cross country here at Riverside. They will, volleyball starts at 4:30 every day from here on out. Cross country is going at 6 p.m. Every day. So if you're interested in those two sports, please reach out. We would be more than happy to get you in contact with those particular coaches. We do also have soccer teams, both boys and girls soccer teams. We're trying to get a new coach. So as soon as we get that new coach lined up and ready to go, we'll send out an announcement for everyone to contact the soccer coach. If you have any questions about athletics coming in as a freshman, please reach out to me.
And I will just introduce Dr. Anderson, who wasn't able to be on tonight, but she's our Director of Special Education over both Heron and Riverside High Schools. And if your student receives special education and there hasn't been a connection with the school yet, Dr. Anderson, S. Anderson, or resource at riversidehighschool.org would be the person to connect with. And then many of you, I think if you know anyone at our schools, you know Miss Young, but I'll let her say hi one more time.
Hi, I am Janine Young, and I am the Director of Enrollment for Riverside High School. I am an Indiana native. I have been in Indianapolis for over 20 years now, so I've actually lived in Indianapolis longer than I lived in my hometown. I am the mom of 4 boys, and I have, yes, so I'm the queen, and I have a husband that lives here too. I let him live with me also. And I went to Purdue University, where I actually majored in business management and computer science. And ironically enough, my parents are both retired educators, and I would end up in education. So with all that being said, I absolutely love my job. I've been doing enrollment for probably 7 years now total. And I'm just happy to be here and happy to work for Riverside. And any questions you have, you can always send me an email or call.
Thank you so much. And this is Mr. Hughes' slide about athletics. I think he covered most of that. Mr. Hughes, anything else you wanted to add on there?
No, yes, that's good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for indulging us in some introductions. We actually talked a lot about how important that is. We are going to be working really closely together with your families to support your student. And all of our initial meet and greet stuff has to be different this year. So it was important to us that you know a little bit about us so that when we reach out and call or email, we can start that relationship. And every time we talk with you, we would love to learn more about your families as well. I want to start tonight by just giving you a bit of an overview about Riverside. Most of you know quite a bit about the school. You've maybe been to an info session or on a tour or to one of our previous nights. So tonight I just want to hit on the things that are really most important to our academic model. Your students will be starting in our academic model in 2 weeks from today. So here's what you can expect in that regard. So first up, we are a public school. This is a misconception that many folks have. We are a public school open to all students. We have no barrier to enrollment. We are tuition free. We do have uniforms when we are in person. That makes us look a little private, but we are a public school and are very proud to be one. We are also a college prep school. Mr. Koshin will mention a couple things about that.
Yeah, so we're a liberal arts college prep school. What that means is that all of our classes are challenging and are preparing students for college level work, even from the 9th grade year. Essentially, every class either has an honors, a pre-AP, or an AP version of it, right? All students have the ability to reach towards whichever academic interests most stick out to them. And additionally, we have support classes for math and English specifically. So we really attempt to serve kids at both ends of the spectrum, whether they are really advanced in a subject or need some catching up. We also have block scheduling, which we'll go over again in a little bit. So students are in a total of 8 classes, but they only have 4 per day. And what this means is that classes are longer, so they're about 80 minutes long, but that really allows students and teachers to dive more fully into material, and also helps to, switch up and make the days varied. As a teacher, I really enjoy block scheduling.
That's great. So we also are classical liberal arts and sciences schools, both Riverside and Heron. And for us, we always say those 2 adjectives together. And the way that plays out is really through our scheduling, first and foremost. Our students take English, math, science, social studies, and world languages, Latin, Spanish, or French, every year that they are with us. So long as their schedule allows. Some students don't have room in their schedule based on support class needs. But in addition, our teachers emphasize discussion and rhetoric and analysis and critical thinking in the classroom. We also look for students to make connections along the historic timeline between different content areas, to do a lot of text-based and evidence-based learning, and to always be thinking, as I mentioned, critically. We really push for that in our classes. So that's the classical liberal arts and sciences approach. We also are a charter school. Mr. Harper, would you mention some thoughts about that?
Yeah, so you had mentioned a little while ago, Mrs. Dorsey, about the different types of school. We're not a private school, we're not a traditional public school, we're a charter school. And some people may not know what that means. And this is our definition, but I think what's really important here in our definition is the word intentional. And I'll start in reverse order about some of these things. We are a very intentional school with a very intentionally diverse student body. We have students from over 90 different middle schools here in Indianapolis that cover a range of academic abilities, socioeconomic statuses, and racial backgrounds. And because we have 350 students, we're a small campus, we need to do what's best for our students every day, which means that we have the opportunity to be autonomous, to make decisions in the moment that support students' growth academically, emotionally, and socially. And because we're autonomous, that's allowed us to achieve some of the successes we've had in our first few years at Riverside High School. The Indiana Department of Education awarded us an A an A rating as a school. We were in the top 3 ISTEP scores in Indianapolis, and we're really excited that we provide that level of academic excellence at one of our selling points as Riverside High School.
Absolutely. And then just a little bit more about our academic model. So I can go ahead a little bit, Mr. Harper. As your student settles in with us, they're going to hear their teacher talking about mastery learning, and they're going to hear their teacher describe grades and describe assignments as either mastery or practice. And for us, this idea of mastery learning comes out of our college prep classical liberal arts and sciences approach, and an idea that deep learning in a content area is much preferable, much preferred to cursory knowledge that is easily. So our grades are actually weighted to reflect this emphasis on mastery learning. You can see how it's played out there. If you click again, Mr. Harper, I think it will focus on the 70-30 component. Just know that benchmarks and finals are what we are planning on now. But if we are not in an in-person model by October or December, we might make an adjustment. Right now, the grades that students will be earning at the beginning of the year will come out of that bottom bucket where their assignments will either be mastery or practice. And as you're supporting your student, looking at their grades and working toward their grade progress, you can just see that anything coded mastery has a much more significant impact on their overall grade than something that would be coded as practice. All right, and so next up, because we emphasize mastery, we know that students learn on various timelines. Not everyone learns to master a skill or a piece of knowledge at the same time. So we offer remediation for students. This is a chance to redo an assessment for a higher grade. So if you didn't know something on the day the quiz was last week, but now you've mastered it, twice per quarter, students can redo that assessment. And that's going to be true in virtual settings. So that's what we mean by late passes. So especially in virtual learning, we know that families are juggling a lot. I was on a Zoom call with one of our founding scholars, one of our seniors today. She and her two siblings had already started e-learning, and she was trying to help them, God bless her, and it was challenging. So 3 times per quarter, students in every class. It is very important that students are held to high standards and are accountable, and also that we are reasonable because we know we ask a lot of students. So we hope this strikes that balance of reason and knowing that things come up that make it challenging to be on time every single assignment, but certainly we don't want it to be endless late passes. So this is our middle ground. For AP classes, students only have 1 late pass. And then just a note about our grading scale, the top will be very predictable. That probably is a school similar to the schools that you went to and I certainly went to. But note that after a C-, in a typical year, we actually don't have Ds. We have what's called an NG, or no grade, at a 69 or below. Again, for virtual learning, we are considering the idea of Ds, but at this point, because we're hoping virtual learning is a temporary scenario right now, we plan on NGs, or no grades. And then just to note that our website is very helpful, but especially when you think about all these policies, if the previous slides piqued your interest, but you want to read more, there's a full handbook linked on our website on the family section, forms and policies, and student and parent handbook. And you're welcome to review that. So much of it is mostly applicable for in-person learning, but especially the academic and mastery learning stuff is relevant even in the virtual setting. So wanted to make sure to point you to that document. Okay, great. Let's transition. So big shift here. If you've kind of been listening to us ramble about our introductions and our academic model, and if your student is with you, I encourage your student to really perk up at this point, because starting today and for the next week, your student has a range of assignments. We need them to complete their student orientation, both with some independent work and also with some live Zoom work with us next week. So Mr. Harper and his team are going to talk about student orientation and how we are approaching that in this very non-traditional year.
Thanks, Mrs. Dorsey. So there are some critical homework assignments that students need to complete as soon as possible. The first piece is logging into their school email, their Riverside email. They are able to do this by going to gmail.com. It's a Gmail-based email, and typing in their first name dot last name at riversidehighschool.org. They have a temporary password, as you see there. If your student is unable to log into their Riverside email, just email helpdesk@riversidehighschool.org, and we can make sure that your child is able to set that up. Once they log into their Riverside email, which again is probably one of the most critical pieces ahead of them beginning their student orientation, they will go to a website called Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is where we have videos for students that range from introductions to our school culture to more detail on our academic model and ways for them to be successful. Students will need to watch these videos between now and Sunday, August 9th. If you didn't receive an email with these instructions already in your inbox, parents, please reach out to Janine, Miss Young, at enrollment@riversidehighschool.org, and we can make sure to get that to you. So again, students should log into their Riverside emails, which should be up and running right now. So they can do that as of the end of this call, and then they'll be able to go to Edpuzzle, and that information, parents, is in your inbox. After next week, we will have a live student orientation Zoom, Monday, August 10th from 3 to 5, where students will hop on and we will review the information that's covered in these videos. I'm really excited for students to view the videos and learn more about Riverside High School. And then there'll be a student panel and Q&A as well for students after they've reviewed the videos. And as a frame, parents and students, as you're listening, we really believe in building relationships first with students and with families, because we believe that this sets them up for success. But if and when we transition to in-person or hybrid model, we'll have another orientation, because this orientation is really meant for students to get an understanding of what it's going to be like their first virtual week. But if we change into a hybrid, we'll give you more details on what a day in the life inside the building will look like. We're going to have me, Bryson, and me, Mr. Davis Johnson, and Ms. Bowen will have frequent check-ins with you and your students, because again, for us, students' social-emotional health comes first over academics, because once students know that we love and care about them, which is a phrase students you'll hear often and parents you'll hear often, we believe students are going to just be more successful.
Some assignments for your students for student orientation that culminate in some live Zoom work next week. And let's jump into virtual learning. So deep breath, this is not what we were hoping to be, the scenario we were hoping to be in. Just a little bit of background. We are planning to start on Monday, August 17th with 100% virtual learning. We are still planning to reevaluate at Labor Day, so September 8th. And a transition to hybrid, if we were to announce that at some point this fall, would include a lead-up time. So there would be a week or several weeks lead-up time for families to prepare if we were to transition to in-person learning. As Mr. Harper said, that would include a second student orientation as well as teacher and building preparation as well. And then just to gain some perspective on how we are making these incredibly difficult and serious decisions that impact our entire community, we look very closely at the daily COVID data and the trends that we're seeing, work very closely with the Marion County Health Department and the Mayor's Office, as well as CDC guidelines, and also have surveyed our families twice already and will continue to do so, as well as our staff, as we think about all of the stakeholders that are impacted by our school decisions. I will say that regardless of if we decide to implement a hybrid model or not, we would continue to offer the 100% virtual option for students. Many have already chosen that and indicated that preference, but we would work with families to make that decision if a time to transition would happen. So that's kind of the background. When we think about virtual learning, if you heard at all how we structured virtual learning in the spring and then over Summer Academy, we actually are really proud of how we were able to pull it off, but also have learned a lot. So heading into this fall, have committed to structuring virtual learning along the lines of a normal school day. I think most schools are seeing that this is best practice, both for student connection and for teacher connection, and also for accountability for students to provide some structure to their day. So we anticipate and we expect our students to log in for each of their classes on a given day. If you would go back, Mr. Harper, to that. Yeah, thank you, schedule. So as you can see, from 9 to 4, there are classes scheduled with 15-minute breaks between each class. But note that your student very likely will not have 4 classes on any given day. Mr. Koshin mentioned that there are 8 periods in our school calendar or in our school schedule, but most students have 7 classes and a study hall. And students are not going to be required to report to their study hall or their seminar during virtual learning. So your students might have 4 classes in one day. They might also only have 3 classes and a study hall, and they would have a break during their day. So just keep that in mind as the schedule comes out. The way we will structure our week, on Mondays, we will have A day, so your students will see their A classes and log into the Zoom for their A classes. On Tuesday, there will be B days. On Wednesday, we have office hours and an independent workday for students. I'll say more about Wednesdays in a little bit. Thursdays will be another A day, and Fridays another B day. So you'll get lots of this information between now and the first day of school, but anticipate your student having a structured school day from 9 to 4. They might have a study hall time depending on their schedule within that schedule. And then on Wednesdays, they'll have office hours and independent work time. So that's our daily and weekly schedule. And then you can see each class period during virtual learning will be a 75-minute class time. We will have students log in to a Zoom to start class each period. The teacher will take attendance. There will be a bell work or a class opener. The teacher will go over the agenda and the steps for the student to complete that day. And then we are asking teachers to provide at least 60 minutes of live either instruction, discussion, supervision, or support of some sort for 60 of the 75 minutes of each class period. And then the remaining 15 minutes could be independent time for the student to continue to complete tasks that have been assigned. So teachers will be structuring, they're going to try to mix it up so it's not the same every day. We know that hours and hours of Zoom, just sitting being a passive recipient, are not what's best for students. And we've learned a lot this summer through our very robust summer school about how to utilize Zoom for discussions, for small group meetings, for monitored and supervised work time. There's a lot we can do in that 75-minute time. Students may still have independent work or homework to complete, and we would anticipate that they could use Wednesdays especially for that independent work. We can't fit everything that we need to in a college prep school model into 75 minutes of virtual learning 4 days a week. So there will be additional work outside of that 75-minute time. All right, so that's the first part. I want to have our advising team talk a little bit, our counseling team talk a little bit about advisory. We are keeping it in our schedule. I met today with our new teachers and had a student panel on, and the entire student panel said that advisory was one of the most important parts of our school and in building our school culture. So Mr. Koshin, talk a little bit about advisory.
Yeah, so as you can see on there, advisory is kind of our version of homeroom. The great thing about advisory is that students will stay with their same group of advisory, so the same students that are in there, and then also the same teacher for all 4 years of high school. And the longer that that group is together, the more close and family-like it becomes. While we are virtual, advisory is going to meet 4 days a week, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it will be the first thing that students go to in the morning. So when they log on at 9, for just those first 15 minutes of the day, they will meet with their advisory teacher in advisory group. Some things that are going to happen during that time is just a quick attendance, so that way we get the day started off right. That's where we go through school announcements, things like club sports, student life updates. And then that third piece is really the heart and core of advisory. So this is where we do culture building. This is where we provide student support. Advisory teachers are really students' first line of defense for anything that's going on with them in school. Advisory teachers check their students' grades every week. Advisory teachers, in my estimation, are like the student's school mom or school dad, right? Who is there to assist them with whatever they need. So culture building, academic accountability, and then also any type of college and career programming we have. So those 3 pieces round out what happens in advisory on a day-to-day basis.
Great. So now I want to preview our learning platforms. We have just a few we'll talk about tonight. The first one is Google Classroom. So we actually are making the shift. We've always allowed teachers to use Google Classroom because we use the Google Suite for documents and email purposes. But this year, all teachers will be transitioning to Google Classroom as their virtual classroom hub. Each class will have a Google Classroom homepage, and students and parents will receive automatic invitations via email to join a class page. And that is how both you and your student will access the class page. So you'll need to join all 7 of your students' classes in order to be able to access the course content. It's an automated email. I'm told that you'll get the email, I think 4 or 5 times a month until you accept it. So no one's getting off the hook, but you accept the invitation to join your students' Google Classroom pages. And then that is the homepage for everything. So assignments, resources, learning videos, Google Forms for submitting work, all of that will be found on that single page. If you have older siblings who've been at Riverside or Heron and you've heard us talk about Haiku, we will not be using Haiku sites for classrooms. We'll be using Google Classrooms. Google Classroom just has more functionality and more opportunity for us in a virtual setting to integrate than Haiku did. And also this will come up a lot of times in the rest of the presentation. Your student will need to use their Riverside High School email address for all of their virtual learning for a million reasons. But for one, it syncs with our Google Classroom suite. And so your student received information actually yesterday. It will come up again several times in this presentation, but your student will want to utilize their Riverside High School email, which is on the Gmail platform, on the Google platform for all of their learning this fall. So that's Google Classroom. I want to show you a couple examples. This is Mr. Hauser, who taught AP Physics last year. This is his Google Classroom. He invited me. So I just wanted to show you, this was as simple as the invite was in my email inbox. Literally all I had to do was click join. And because he had put my email address in and I was invited, that's all I had to do. So that was the initial thing. His homepage is not very robust right now because it wasn't active and he was giving me a hard time for using it, but I just needed one that was ready. You can see at the top, there are 3 different tabs that were right off the bat available. The stream, which would just be the running list of notes and assignments, classwork, and then the people in the class. And so you can just peruse what that would look like there. On the next slide, you can see his classwork. He used Edpuzzle quite a bit, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And then on the next slide, actually, you can see, oh yeah, we'll pause right there. So it is a very streamlined virtual platform for classrooms. We think students will be able to adjust or adapt very quickly regardless of what platform their school is coming from or they're coming from their previous school. And our teachers are really excited. They're the ones who asked for us to switch to Google Classroom. So we're glad to provide that and to do that. So that's the Google Classroom platform. Many of your students have probably already experienced Zoom through their virtual learning. We had a lot of success this summer with Zoom, and I wanted to let Mr. Davis Johnson actually talk a little bit about that because he was the Dean of Students this summer at summer school and had a lot of experience supporting students using Zoom.
Thank you. So the difference between summer session 1 and summer session 2 was that we set it up so that our students could stay in class for the duration of the day. So it's our way of simulating a regular school day. So students won't have to worry about not getting support, not getting their questions answered. The teachers will essentially teach in the main Zoom room, and then they will send the students into different breakout rooms to work on various assignments. In those breakout rooms, students can work together. Also, we will use different Zoom links to get you information about clubs and, set up times for clubs to meet. That's something that we definitely want you all to look into as you get that information from the orientations. Different meetings will be set up via Zoom. You don't need an account, all right? As long as you get the Zoom link, you'll be good to go. The biggest thing is that you want to make sure you're using Zoom from a computer. We ran into a lot of problems where students were trying to get into Zoom from their phones. It does work sometime, but more times than not, it's a lot better from the computer. We'll send you direct links, and like we talked about in the last slide, that all the information will be on your classroom pages.
Perfect. The other thing you saw on Mr. Hauser's Google Classroom page were a series of ed puzzles, and your student may have already perused this because this is how we released our orientation videos as well. What we love about ed puzzle is it allows us to embed checkpoints in a teaching video and ask a student comprehension questions or reflection, discussion, response questions, etc. So a teacher might make a teaching video, upload it through Edpuzzle, and then as your student watches it, they're prompted throughout the video to answer questions before they can continue on. We also love that teachers can view student progress, time spent on the videos. They can grade their responses. So it's a really helpful tool for teachers, and a bit of a caution to students that you can't just speed through it and not pay attention. We can see that data from our end if a student isn't spending meaningful time on those videos. I will say that we expect a mix of both live instruction, where a teacher, just like we're doing, is presenting material live to the class, and then also some videos that the teachers have already made presenting content. We want to mix it up for students. We want students to have a little bit of both, so they just have some options in virtual learning. It's not all the same every day. These are some screenshots from an ed puzzle. This was in Latin class, and you can see the video was playing. It was a YouTube video that Mr. Kazaya had put together, and then the question popped up on the side. What is the normal term of a dictator supposed to be? And this was in Caesar's reign in a Latin class that our students were taking. So just a screenshot there of ed puzzle. And then next up, so again, if you need a little moment to get yourself fresh, we're going to talk about Power School next, and Mr. Harper is going to talk about that. And Power School is so huge. It is essential that your family have your account set up and know how to utilize it, because it really is a wealth of information that adjusts in real time for your student, and can really help your family figure out what's going on for your student at school. So Mr. Harper will talk about Power School.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Dorsey. So if you are someone who thinks to yourself, where do I find for my child, Power School is exactly where you want to go. So like Mrs. Dorsey said, parents, on your phone and on your work computers, on your personal computers, you'll want to bookmark this website because it's so important and is going to detail many things about your child's progress at Riverside High School. So you will go to this website here. Again, this is recorded, so you don't have to write it down, but this is the link that you will want to save. It's going to give you real-time information about your students' grades, about their attendance, and fees as well. We're going to send you around or near August 15th your username and password, so you will be able to log into this system. So I want to give you just a really quick sample of what this system looks like. So let's imagine you already have your username and password and you log into it. This is what the interface is going to look like. You're going to have a lot of options to dive into different aspects of your student's life at Riverside High School. The first tab you will see are attendance and grades, and on the right here you see students' grades. We'll talk more later about what each of these columns look like, but the last one is the most important. Anytime you have questions about a student's grade, you can email the teacher, but you can also do some investigation work yourself. So you can actually click on these grades, and once you click on these grades, you're going to see a list of all of your students' assignments along with their grades as well. So this is actually when Mr. Koshin, is this your English 9 class? This is from like the first year. So when he was our founding teacher our first year, this is just a collection of some of his assignments. You see how this particular student scored on the assignments and then what the letter grades are.
And then that updates in real time. So the minute that I update my gradebook and click save, then Power School changes. So you don't need to wait until the end of the semester. It's in real time.
So if you're asking your student what's your grade and they don't know, you can always log into Power School for up-to-date information about your child's academic status. This is also attendance for your student. It's going to look a little bit different this year since students are going to be at home, but we will still take attendance to ensure that students are logging in every class period, every day, to ensure that they are in classes and doing their work. Also, any fees or student balances that students have, you can also access here on the Power School app. So there's so much information here. It's such a critical component of how we keep you updated on your students' academic progress, as well as other aspects of their journey here with us at Riverside High School. So I'll pause there, and I want to actually transition to, I think, part of how we keep students, hold students accountable, and create culture here at Riverside High School. I actually want to pause and ask students to give you a little homework assignment. It's been really stressful, and I hope parents, you guys are finding ways to decompress. So the first 10 students who can email me with their Riverside accounts what their favorite TV show or a favorite Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus show is will get a special virtual high five from me. So please do that, students and parents, just as a fun way for us to begin to get to know your child. So you will hear from time to time us reference something called logs, and we are going to communicate with you in 3 important ways: phone calls, emails, as well as oh goodness, there's a third way: phone calls, emails, and a third way. And there are 2 types of ways we're going to keep you updated on your child's progress behaviorally at Riverside: through corrective log entries and commendation log entries. These are going to be referencing our universal behavior policies, and we have 7 core universal behavior policies which support our environment and make sure our school is safe and has high academic expectations. Corrective log entries are when students aren't meeting our expectations, and commendation log entries are when students are exceeding our expectations. So while there are 7, there are 4 core universal behavior policies that will support our students during their time at Riverside High School. And you can see them there: showing respect for people, property, and the learning process, remaining awake, alert, and engaged in class, using school appropriate and responsible language, and then coming to class on time to learn. If students are late to class or don't use school appropriate language, we will communicate that with you. And the accumulation of corrective log entries, so the instances when we need to have conversations with students to support them on meeting our expectations, that increases the interventions that me, Mr. Davis Johnson, and Ms. Bowen have with your students to support their ability to be a part of our school community. As we transition, if and when we transition to a hybrid model where students are in classroom, we'll review all 7 universal behavior policies with you and how that integrates into supporting students at Riverside. Another important piece here is you'll need our district code for the Power School app. It's PFCL. Again, you won't need to write that down just yet, but that's going to be the code that it asks you to get the Power School app. So if you're not near a computer and want to use your phone to access Power School, that's going to be the code you will need. This also gives you an opportunity to input your personal specifications on how often you want to be updated. So there's options for you to be updated daily, weekly. I would never suggest never as an update option, but one of the interesting pieces is anytime, let's say you're in Mr. Koshin's class and he changes a grade, you can be notified right then and there with an email about your student's grade change. So we really suggest you dive into some of the settings in the Power School app so you can always be on top of how well your student is doing at Riverside High School.
Really quickly, just to piggyback something big with Power School, if you all have like a change of email or a change of phone number, it would be great to let us know, whether it be us administrators or enrollment. That way we can always have up-to-date information to contact you on.
Yes, please email enrollment@riversidehighschool.org for that, especially if you've changed an email, so we are getting everything to you. Thank you, Mr. Bryce, or Mr. Davis Johnson.
It's okay, I got like 4 names, it's all good. As long as you use one.
I heard Coach J is what we can call you, so.
That works for me.
Perfect. So a note on Virtual Learning Wednesday. So remember, back to the schedule, A-B, Virtual Learning Wednesdays, A-B is our schedule. On Wednesdays, your students can expect your teachers to be available for drop-in office hours. This is where your teacher will just be on a Zoom waiting for students to drop in and out for questions. We used this in the spring and it was very effective, and throughout the summer. But we also know that that isn't always perfect for students who need one-on-one time. So Wednesdays will be a mix of drop-in office hours and one-on-one appointments where students can request time with their individual teachers. And we'll have a schedule available for you so your family can plan and think about how your student needs to spend Wednesdays. We also anticipate Wednesdays being a great time for clubs to meet virtually at first, and other culture and relationship building opportunities, grade level meetings, student town halls, etc. And then, like I mentioned, your student will have homework to do, and so Wednesdays would be a great way to do that work as well. And we count Wednesdays through virtual learning as a school day, so your student should as well. And just last up, Ms. Bowen and Mr. Davis Johnson worked really closely, as I mentioned, with students this summer in Summer Academy, and just have a few keys for success as you think about setting your student up for success this fall. And I'll let them share.
Ms. Bowen, do you want to take it as far as the routine, as far as things
Yeah,
that
sure
yes,
can.
Awesome.
Sorry, I was trying to let you. Okay, so there are probably 7 things that if we had to like hone it down to a few things that you as students and parents, you can support your students in doing to make sure that they're successful. I think number 1 is to make sure that your students are on a routine, right? It's been summertime. There's been like Wii and Nintendo and whatever other game system that kids use these days. And I think it's important to set up a schedule for sleep because sleep is very important in order for students to be fully engaged, active, and attentive during school. Make sure that you eat, you drink, so that you're able to focus to the best of your ability. We also suggest that to the best of your ability, you have a quiet workspace. So a workspace that your student can have their materials beside them. They're able to like have their device there. They have enough room to where they can work in a way that's effective for them. We also suggest that you not take breaks outside of the designated breaks. We have graciously, well, not even graciously, it's a normal thing to do in school, but there's breaks in between every class period. And now they're 15 minutes long rather than like 6-minute passing periods that you would normally get if we were in the physical building. So take that time to use the restroom, go outside for some fresh air, take a break, eat a snack, do whatever you have to do. But when those class periods starts and that 75 minutes begins, try your best to not get up from that space if you can, because you might miss valuable information that your teacher could be giving at the time. Also, if you have snacks or water that you have beside you that you know, okay, I'm going to need a drink while I'm studying or while I'm listening to my teacher, then have that beside you. And then make sure that you come prepared. That's the final thing that I'll say. If you know that you need to have your computer or your laptop plugged into the wall in order for it to not die, do that. If you need a pencil, a calculator, paper, your books, etc. It sounds kind of elementary, but those things really do slip your mind sometimes when you get into the groove of school. So just make sure that you have everything with you during the day so that you're not falling behind.
Awesome. And when it comes to the regular check-ins on attendance and academic process, that's going to kind of be twofold between us as administrators and us as teachers and you all as parents. We'll all be able to check everything in Power School. So, you know, periodically, maybe once every few days, go in and check attendance, go in and check grades, or maybe once a week. You'll also get alerts via log updates, email, phone call from us. If we pinpoint students that may need some assistance, one thing that we kind of instituted when we were virtual in the spring was mandatory, like an office hour schedule that, you know, myself or Ms. Bowen will put together individually for your student, just to kind of help guide them towards success. We understand that this is a lot different than any other class that has come into our school because we're starting virtual. So you can, look forward to us offering support in that way. Make use of the office hours. I know this sounds super cliche, but I honestly think that we have the best teachers in the city. And
Yeah, we
if you
do.
make use of those office hours, I guarantee you that you will have success in all of your classes, no matter how easy, how difficult they may be. And then just reach out. All right, don't be scared to ask questions. I'm pretty straightforward. I would not have a master's degree if I did not ask questions. So don't be scared to email your teachers, your advisory teacher. Reach out to your school counselors if there's things that you need to talk about, things that you're struggling with. And then you can always come to us, the assistant heads of school, with any questions, any concerns. Our job is literally to make you successful.
Yeah, Mr. Davis Johnson, if I could just add to that. Also, being a teacher, coming from the teacher perspective, I can add testament to the importance of coming to office hours. Just to piggyback off of Mr. Davis Johnson, like, it is very important, parents, guardians, to encourage your students, especially being in this virtual environment, to attend office hours with your teachers. We have some limitations in terms of being able to see you as a student. I think in the way we could like see your body language, or if you have a question or a confusion, there's things that we aren't able to do in the physical building, which means that in turn, students, you're going to have to step up and advocate for yourself if you have a question or if you have a concern. And like we've said, we are here literally to make sure that you succeed. But I also want to just put a little fire in you to know that like it's going to require for you, now that you're in high school, to ask for yourself and advocate for yourself. You can do it.
Love that, Dean team. So good. Just a note on our very first day of school, you will just start the first school day on August 17th by logging in to your advisory. If you remember, that's what's up first. You have advisory every morning at 9 a.m. The couple days prior to the first day of school, students and parents and guardians will receive an email with their student's schedule and directions of how to log in to each Zoom class, especially their first Zoom class. And really, that's the first thing you need to do. Even if you can't do anything else, just get yourself in that very first Zoom room, following the directions on the email that you receive, and your teachers will take it from there. And then just a reminder to use your Riverside email address. All right. We are rounding the corner with our agenda items. We just need to talk about lunch status application, a couple upcoming dates, and then Q&A. So we're getting there. Really appreciate everyone's attention tonight. Just a note, this was news to me, actually. I kind of thought, oh, we're virtual learning. At least we can take sit back for a minute on lunch applications, free reduced lunch applications, which are always, I know, a big step for families to get through in the fall. But in talking with our business office, we still need every single Riverside family to complete their lunch application every year, even if you are 100% positive your student does not qualify, or the opposite. If you know for sure your student has qualified every year, they're going to qualify again, or we need students to complete that application. It is too much information to get into the weeds right now about how to do it via this presentation. It will come out in its own set of steps. If you've done this at previous schools, it's the same process you followed for your student at previous schools. If you know your student does not qualify at the beginning of the process, you can just select decline acceptance, and then you don't have to go through putting all of your personal information in. And then if you have received notification that you are directly certified, if you've received a letter from the state stating that you're directly certified, that's the only reason that you would not need to complete a lunch application, a lunch status application. And just to note that the deadline to complete this is September 28th. So luckily we have some time. And even though we aren't eating meals together every day, all day, we are going to continue to offer meal pickup on Mondays and Wednesdays from 11 to 1, kind of forever. That's just our plan. We haven't missed a beat since we broke from school on March 16th. And we give out multiple meals at a time, Mondays and Wednesdays from 11 to 1. So encourage all students or families, anyone from the family can stop by with the student to pick up their lunch and breakfast items 11 to 1 Mondays and Wednesdays. And then a note that a student's lunch status also impacts their textbook fees, technology rental fees, and just our school's funding formula. So we want the lunch status of our students to be reflected accurately so that we are funded appropriately and fairly. And then also note that textbook fees don't come out until October, November. So if you're used to paying those fees right away, we actually wait because high school students' schedules might change a little bit. So we don't issue the fees right away until the schedules are more locked in. So that's a note about lunch status application and fees. Next up, we have just a series of dates that are upcoming for you to be thinking about. Most of these are review from communication you've already received, but a couple might be new. So maybe grab your calendar. There have been a lot of technology drop-off dates already, but we have 2 more this week. This would be for families. If you are a new family to us and you rented a computer this summer, or you were loaned a computer this summer, we actually would like it back so we can update it, refresh it, and then we'll give your student a new computer next week. You'll see those dates in just a moment. So we need all technology back. And note that these last 2 days are at Heron High School. We've had a lot of drop-off days at Riverside as well, but our tech team is now based at Heron for the week, and so they would request technology drop-off at Heron this week. So note about technology drop-off. Next up, we have backpack and t-shirt pickup. Ms. Young, you want to plug this one?
Sure. So even though we're not going to actually be in person, we still wanted to do what we normally do, which is distribute our t-shirts and our backpacks for our students. So that date will be this coming Friday, and there'll be 2 different slots for times that you can do that. So this Friday, you can come between the hours of 12 and 1 p.m. Or if you can't make that time, then we're offering another time with 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And basically we're going to do kind of a safe little drive-through where you'll pick up your backpack and t-shirt. If you have not already received the link for you to pick your size for the t-shirt, please email me at enrollment@Riverside High School, and I will send you that link so that you can go ahead and get your t-shirt size. The other thing is your backpack will come with some starter supplies. So there will be a couple of binders in there to keep you organized, some pencils and pens and things like that that we think that you'll need, some paper. So any questions at all with that, please feel free to just shoot an email to that email address that's listed. Or call. That always works too.
Perfect. And this is just a reminder, Mr. Harper already mentioned it, student orientation, their mandatory session is coming up a week from today from 3 to 5. That will be a mix of a little bit of information like we're presenting now, but more breakout groups to meet their classmates and a Q&A with current Argonauts. And there'll be a Zoom link for that.
It's going to be so much fun.
But that's not all. Your students can also do optional Q&As next Tuesday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. They can join Ask Anything session with current students and faculty from 6 to 6:30 p.m. next Tuesday. And next Wednesday, no. Are they both Tuesday?
This one should say Wednesday.
Got it. So 2 nights in a row from 6 to 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are optional meet and greet and Q&A sessions for your students. So trying to ramp up, hoping that your students make some connections via Zoom and we can go forward with a few relationships built. So those are orientation dates. Many of you have been asking about technology pickup. We're trying to phase slowly how often we send you communication. We know that it's all fast and furious right now. So coming out this week still will be our technology request form. We have plenty of technology for every family that needs it for their student, as well as we can partner with the family if you don't have reliable internet access. Once you complete the form, part of that form will be agreeing to our acceptable use agreement for technology and internet use, and then requesting a computer from the school if you want one. Your student can use their own laptop or tablet computer, or they can borrow one from us. And we have 2 pickup dates scheduled. This is the Thursday and Friday before school starts. One in the afternoon, obviously from 1 to 6 on the 13th, and then from 9 to 1, a morning time on Friday the 14th. Or if neither of those times work, you can email helpdesk@riversidehighschool.org and figure out a pickup time for your student. But certainly want your student to have a working, reliable device and internet access before Monday, and we're prepared to provide those for all students that need that. Okay, so that's technology. Textbook pickup. This is way down the road. You don't even have to think about this yet, but might as well throw it out. Students' schedules, we always have a drop add period at the beginning of the semester. And drop add is where a student, maybe they signed up for French and they get in French and they realize they wish they were in Spanish. Or maybe they sign up for regular, sorry, Mr. Harper. They sign up for regular world history and they realize they wish they had stepped up and pushed themselves to do advanced placement world history. So after drop add ends, we will then run textbook pickup on Wednesday, as you can see, August 26th. So it's a day that's office hour day, independent work day for students. That whole day from 9 to 6, students will be able to stop by and pick up their textbooks on that day. There's a question about rental fee for technology. It depends on your student's lunch status. A student who qualifies for free reduced lunch does not have a fee at all for renting a laptop from us. Families who qualify for full pay lunch, it's a $100 fee to rent a laptop. Sorry, that wasn't on the screen. Good question. All right, and I think maybe one more, or is that it for upcoming dates? That's it.
That's it.
It's only 7-11. Wow, we're doing great. That is the bulk of the information that we thought your student and your family really would need in order to be successful on the first day of school. And we fully realize that it is a lot. So look for this presentation to come out. You can go back and really focus on the slides that you need. But also, if you go to the next slide, Mr. Harper, we'll come back to Q&A. That info@riversidehighschool.org is one general email account that's monitored by a staff person who can then push that email to whichever one of us needs to get it. So if you didn't catch the email address of the person that you have a question for, you can either find us on our website, you can find the staff's email links on the website, or just reach out to info@riversidehighschool.org and it will get funneled to the right person. You all are doing a great job asking questions also in the chat. So Mr. Koshin, are there any that need to be addressed out loud? I think we've been able to keep up with most of them in writing. Oh, let's talk about uniform stuff. Okay. So students do not need to wear school uniform for virtual learning, but man, they certainly can if they want. And how cool would that be? We definitely had students last spring choose to wear their uniform every day, and we are all about that. But students can wear their own clothes during virtual learning if they would like. But if you want to start thinking about preparing for the uniform, this year we are not requiring any uniform pieces be purchased from School Bell. Nothing has to come from School Bells, because we're trying to really accommodate for retail flexibility in this season where families have different comfort levels going to different types of stores. So students at Riverside wear khaki pants or khaki shorts or a plaid skirt. The plaid skirt does need to come from School Bells because no one else makes our plaid skirt. But if your student wants to wear khaki pants or khaki shorts, typically we have School Bells pants and shorts. For this year, they just need to be plain flat front khakis and shorts. And so you can start thinking about that if you want. And then similarly, our students wear white or navy polo shirts, and those do not have to come from anywhere in particular. They can come from School Bells if you really want the logo embroidered, but they do not have to have that. So anywhere that wears that sells white or navy polos, and then the white crew neck t-shirts under that. And then for extra layers, if your student gets cold or wants extra layers, they can wear a plain navy sweatshirt, just crew neck sweatshirt, again from anywhere. I know Menards, Meijer, Walmart has those, Target, or they can get the logoed outerwear from School Bells if they want some of those items, but they don't have to. And I would say, I had a parent email this week, like, what's my over under on should they start purchasing uniform items? Will we transition to in-person? Because their student might grow and they don't want to buy the wrong size, and then we don't come back to in-person. And I just have no way to answer that question other than we want desperately to be in person as soon as it is safe to do so. So I think every family is making their own decision on when and how to stock up on uniform items. We will transition back to a hybrid in-person model where students do have to wear uniforms as soon as it seems reasonable and safe to do so. But it's a really hard question to answer.
Mrs. Dorsey, I just put the I go between schools, so forgive me if I ever say Heron. Riverside's uniform resale on Facebook. It's a group. If you're on Facebook, you can ask to join that. Somebody had asked about used uniforms, and in case you don't see the chat, sometimes on people's phones they don't see it, but it's called Riverside Uniform Resale on Facebook. Ask to join it, and we'll let you into that.
Yep, and there are full details on our uniform. We intentionally didn't get into it tonight because it just, until we are transitioning back to an in-person model, it is not something we're going to require for students. But on that handbook that's linked from our Riverside website, that handbook has every specification about the uniform and really lists everything out for your student. And then just the one thing to note is the uniform pants and shorts have to be khaki. There's the question about, can they be black? No, we have khaki pants as our uniform bottoms, but they do not have to be from Riverside this year. Great questions. We also do have a supply. Actually, students are just dropping them off all the time, things that they've outgrown and are transitioning from. So working with the assistant head of school and dean's office, also we have uniform items that we can work with your family to loan out or to pass along as well. And then the girls' skirts, I saw a question about that. Those are plaid knee-length skirts. It looks like a skirt, but then there are cotton shorts sewn in underneath, and those are available from School Bells. All right. Any other questions? As we end tonight, if you have questions that we haven't addressed, feel free to put them in the chat now if you haven't been putting them in so far, but I think you all have been doing a great job.
Someone asked about Wi-Fi and having a hard time with Wi-Fi, and do you want to speak about hotspots? Is that
yes, we do not anticipate our learning platforms requiring a huge amount of Wi-Fi bandwidth. They're pretty straightforward platforms. Google Classroom and Zoom both are pretty straightforward. But if your family does encounter Wi-Fi issues, we do have a partnership to provide hotspots for families. And the technology form that goes out this week will also have a place to request a Wi-Fi hotspot. Mr. Hughes, would you mention or respond to that about what time our tryouts tomorrow? I think it's for volleyball. I don't know if Mr. Hughes is still on or not.
Yeah, Mr. Hughes, I think has gotten off. Any questions about athletics can be emailed to him. It's rhughes@riversidehighschool.org, and I'll type that in the chat right now.
Thank you. There's a question about grading, and just to elaborate a little bit more on that, I will say that our how teachers grade assignments is pretty straightforward. So a teacher might issue a rubric for a project or a writing assignment. They might have a test that has where they're grading both on the correct answer as well as the process that students took to arrive at that answer. We ask teachers to provide feedback as they're grading as well. The remediation opportunities come if a student takes a mastery assessment, does not do as well as they think they could, and then after some intentional learning or relearning or office hours, they know that they could do better. We allow students twice per quarter to retake an assessment, and a teacher might provide the same assessment if it's one that can be taken again with integrity, or they might provide a different version of the assessment in order to have the student have another opportunity to demonstrate their mastery. And for us, it just reflects more the science of how we learn, which is not all on the same schedule at the exact same time. Sometimes something really clicks in our brain when we move on to the next topic, and it helps me really understand and clarify the previous topic we were working on. And so that's why we allow for that remediation. There's a question about how will you know what classes your students have chosen. The master's schedule is being built probably as we speak right now. So students who have submitted their course requests, we put in students' first choices. And honestly, most often students are able to get their first choice unless they have chosen a lot of things that are, they want choir and advanced theater and French 3, and all the, 2 of the 3 of those are the same period or something. Once your student's schedule is ready, it will be emailed out to your family. And at that point, if something is either different than your student expected or isn't what they wanted, there will be a drop add process to follow with the counselors. Well, they will submit a virtual request for a schedule change. If it's a request that requires parent sign off, the counselors will reach out to make sure the parents are on board with the change. and then put the change in place. So good question about course request. If you have not yet, if you haven't done a course request yet, it might be because your student isn't through the testing process yet, the placement testing process. Ms. Young and Ms. House, correct me if I'm wrong, or Mr. Koshin, the placement test is what triggers our school counselors receiving your students' current standing, allows them to determine core class placement as well as support class placement, and then how many classes are open in your student's schedule for them to choose. Ms. Young or Ms. House, would you just weigh in on then how do students get to pick their final courses?
Sure. Excuse me. So if you have not received them, as Ms. Dorsey mentioned, so if you've already tested with me, there's a possibility if I have not received your 8th grade, or if you're a transfer student, I haven't received your transcript. So that could be a holdup if you have not actually received class or have been scheduled for the upcoming year. So if that is the case and you feel like you've already tested with me, or you know you've tested with me, just follow up with me. If you have your final grades, that would be amazing. That would help to speed up the process of me getting you scheduled and with the guidance counselors to get you scheduled. So that is typically what the holdup is.
And you can submit your transcripts. We request them directly from the schools because we want an official transcript, but honestly, sometimes parents get them faster than the schools respond to us. So if you have an official copy of your student's transcript that is totally finalized from the end of the last semester, you're welcome to send that along to Ms. Young. Otherwise, we often are just waiting on your student's previous school to send that along to us. I put in the email, I put into the chat the guidance, that's our counseling team, their email address. If you have a question on your student's scheduling status, you can email enrollment and or guidance, and they are getting back to people within the day on scheduling status because we're trying to finalize our master schedule. There's a question about electives. Electives will be taught virtually, and our elective teachers are talking with all the other elective teachers in the state and in their communities about how to do so in the best possible way. If it's a class like art, we will be providing both a supply list as well as a supply pickup time. So we don't expect families to provide all of their own art supplies. I know teachers will be surveying students to see what they already have at home and then putting together supply packets that will be available at textbook pickup and then throughout the semester as they transition to new projects. And so art supplies especially will be provided as the teacher first surveys what our students have.
I want to clarify too, someone asked who to submit the transcripts to, and the next email said to guidance. Actually send those to enrollment as enrollment collects all of the paperwork first, and we want to make sure that we have marked off everything, and then we will go ahead in-house and get that to the guidance department.
Great, and Xavier asked, when will students' schedules come out? If you want to clarify what your student has requested, you can email guidance and they can clarify what requests are in for your student. Student schedules won't be finalized until our master schedule goes live, which doesn't happen until closer to the start of school. Typically just a couple days before school starts is when a student's schedule goes live, and then you'll be emailed and notified of your student's final schedule. But if you're just curious what you requested and wanted to confirm that it is what you were thinking, you can email guidance and they'll get right back with you. There's a question about a student who doesn't have access to computers while the class is active. I think this was mentioned earlier. We really need and want and ask all students to have their own computer for the full school day, so from 9 to 4. And if that isn't currently provided at your student's household, then to borrow one from us that becomes only for your student to do from 9 to 4. Because we're a college prep school, we need to keep on moving ahead with rigorous content, and we are prepared to do that, but only if your student has access to their classes all day long. So each student will need their own laptop. We're glad to provide one. If you don't have one currently available for your student, just complete that technology request form that will come out this week and then come to one of the technology pickup days. And correct, no supply list until course schedule is released. Yes, correct. And we don't ever publish supply lists like you would see, Like you can go to Target and see an elementary school supply list. It really is dependent on each individual student's schedule. And so their teacher will be telling them if they need anything in particular for that class. But most of our courses just require the traditional high school equipment. There's a question about placement testing, and Miss Young and enrollment at riversidehighschool.org is who to connect with if your student has not yet done placement testing. We've been working through that virtually all spring, so I know she'll be glad to talk you through that as well.
Yeah, so if you have not signed up for a placement exam, all you need to do is just send me an email. I will send you the direct link for you to sign up. I usually have two testing sessions daily, or early morning session, and then I usually have an afternoon session. So yeah, just feel free to send me an email at enrollment@riversidehighschool.org, and then I will email you back with the link for you to sign up at a time that's convenient for you. And also, if there's a problem, for instance, if you don't have a laptop, because that is the best way to test. If you don't have a laptop, we are doing loaners for testing. So just let me know that as well.
That's great. Okay, first of all, huge props to all of you parents and guardians. I know you have absorbed so much information tonight and have asked very thoughtful and specific questions that I think other families benefited from as well. So thank you for that. And thanks to our Riverside team for putting together the presentation tonight. Students, we cannot wait to meet you, even if it is on Zoom. That'll have to do for now, but we are not deterred, and we are confident that you'll have a really good experience this fall no matter what. And as soon as it is safe and reasonable to do so, we'll come back in the building together. We'll see next up students next Monday from 3 to 5. We'll see you on Zoom. And then if we do transition to hybrid, don't forget we'll do another round of orientation for the things that are more pertinent to in-person schooling. We look forward to a really great semester. Can't wait to meet you all. Thanks for coming tonight.